Welcome back. We're back with another episode of the AC podcast. I know I'm getting to you guys a little late this week, but it is what it is. AC has things to do just like anybody else. But we're back, needless to say, and I'm back to bring you everything that went on this past week in the NFL. So, let's just start with this. I want to get into Dallas first. Obviously, I'm going to get to the Eagles-Steelers game. I'm about to get to these pathetic New York teams because this is a disgrace. Gonna get to some what the L. And just overall what I think about what's going on. Get to some other teams and some other games. But I just want to start with this. I want to start with the Cowboys. Heart goes out to Dak Prescott. Obviously broke his ankle during the Giants game. Very sad to see. Andy Dalton's obviously going to take over. But Jerry won. Jerry Jones won because when he put the franchise tag on Dak Prescott, he was betting against Dak. He was betting that Dak wouldn't be able to do what he did, and so he could find a reason to underpay this man. And now Jerry finally has his ammunition in the chamber. Now Jerry can use this season as a license to say that he doesn't have to pay Dak Prescott market value. He can use this as a reason to franchise tag him next year, which is most likely what they'll do. But I think it's key to highlight that the Dallas Cowboys, they don't need Dak Prescott. They want him, but they haven't shown that they need him. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a marriage, for instance. In a marriage, you would hope that there's, for the most part, unconditional love. You would expect that. There's a difference between conditional and unconditional love. Conditional love has certain barriers, certain things that prevent you from going all out. While unconditional love is, no matter what you do, right or wrong, I'm going to stand by you. I'm going to love you no matter what. And I think the Dallas Cowboys have conditional love for Dak Prescott. They want Dak Prescott at their price for the amount of years that they want to lock him up to. They want all the leverage in this contract. They don't want Dak Prescott the way the Chiefs want Patrick Mahomes, the way the Ravens want Lamar Jackson, the way the Texans want Deshaun Watson, the way the Tennessee Titans want Ryan Tannehill, the way the Seahawks want Russell Wilson. They don't want Dak Prescott that way. They want him on their terms, on their amount of years, with all the leverage in favor of the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair to Dak Prescott. But it is what it is now because he's hurt. And Cowboys season isn't over. They still got Andy Dalton, who's a capable backup. Believe he can do some things with this offense. With obviously the offensive line's in shambles right now. Tyron Smith's out for the year. No Travis Frederick. Lyle Collins is gone. You know, it's not looking good for the Dallas Cowboys. But they're not going to get any sympathy from me. Not going to get any sympathy from anyone else. Next man up mentality, I guess. But Jerry has won. The franchise tag was placed on Dak because they were betting against Dak Prescott. And he has no long-term deal now. He's out for the rest of the season. And now the Cowboys are going to have all the leverage going into next season because they're going to be able to franchise tag him again without having to give him a long-term deal. It's sad. It's honestly sad because I want to see the man get paid because I think he deserves it. In a league where Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, Matthew Stafford got market value contracts, I don't see why Dak can't get one. Jimmy Garoppolo's not better than Dak. Ryan Tannehill's not better than Dak. Matthew Stafford, he hasn't even won a playoff game, and he's getting paid more than Dak. Dak's at least won a playoff game, despite what you want to say about his win-loss record in the playoffs. Even if you want to say Deshaun Watson's better than Dak. He's only got one playoff victory as well. And he just got $40 million per year, $160 million. So I don't know what to make of all that, but I just want to see Dak get paid because I think he deserves it. He's a top 10 quarterback to me, but obviously the Dallas Cowboys, they don't want to pay that price. I don't see why, because they got everybody else locked up long term. They got all his weapons locked up long term. Mark Cooper's locked up for 5 years, $100 million. Offensive line's locked up. Zeke's locked up. CeeDee Lamb, who they drafted in the first round, is going to be here another 5 years. Michael Gallup's going to be here another 1 to 2 years. Marcus Lawrence, he's locked up. Jalen Smith's locked up. Most of the Dallas Cowboys core pieces are locked up. They're either locked up or they're on their rookie deals. So I don't see what the problem is with paying Dak Prescott. But it is what it is. But I want to also mention another reason I'm disheartened that Dak's injured. This is more of a personal thing. Now it is expected, and I fear that the Eagles are going to win this division. It is my worst nightmare come to life. I do not want the Eagles to win this division. I'm going to repeat that again as an Eagles fan. I do not want the Philadelphia Eagles to win the NFC East because I know this team has no hope, no chance, not even the slightest bit of optimism that they can win once they get into the playoffs. This team is old. They're not good. And it's disgusting to watch. I don't want to see the Philadelphia Eagles get into the playoffs. I don't want to see this. I want to see them rebuild. So just getting to the Philadelphia Eagles, I want to see them continue to lose, which is what they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I expected to win the game. People were asking me who I was rooting for. I was rooting for either team, but who I expected to win, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they did just that. The Philadelphia Eagles defense on Sunday, that was an atrocious defensive performance. They could not stop a rookie, Chase Claypool, who I like. I was raving about him. You can go back in the earlier podcast of this season, even before the season started. I've been raving about Chase Claypool. But it seems like whatever rookie receivers are playing the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a breakout performance. T. Higgins caught 2 touchdowns for the Bengals against the Eagles. Chase Claypool had 4 touchdowns. Brandon Ayuk was looking like a long jumper hurdling over Eagles defenders on Sunday Night Football, national TV. Van Jefferson was doing some things against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, does every rookie receiver that came out of this year's draft look like a star against the Eagles defense? I mean, Jim Schwartz, give me a break. You can't stop one guy from scoring on you. He scored 4 touchdowns. Was responsible for 28 points. You can't stop that guy? A rookie who's getting acclimated to the league? How do you give up 38 points to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a day where your offense actually was good? Offense scored 29 points. And you gave up 38? Ben Roethlisberger was 13 of 13 for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns on 3rd down? Jim Schwartz, what do you call that? Overall, Pittsburgh Steelers were 11 of 15 on 3rd down? You can't get a stop? You couldn't stop a common cold? You got Jalen Mills playing outside corner. This guy, he's just not good. The Eagles, they're just relying on people. They're just not good. They're just not good. Only got 1 sack on Ben Roethlisberger the whole day. That came in the first quarter. Highest paid defensive line, where are you? Once again. I don't know. I got to get on this guy, Nate Gary. Because I have never seen such scrub-like play in my entire life from the linebacker position. And then the idiocy, the complete idiocy of Jim Schwartz to say, oh, we've invested in the linebacker position. When you have the 32nd, how do I want to say it? You have the 32nd most cap space dedicated to the linebacker position. Last. There's 32 NFL teams. You have the 32nd most cap space allocated to the linebacker position. What have you done for the linebacker position? You said, we signed Nigel Bradham. Nigel Bradham's not on the team anymore. We drafted 2 guys from in the draft. They're not playing. Sean Bradley, he's not playing. Davion Taylor, a 3rd-round rookie who's apparently a project, he's not playing. Why would you draft a project player in the 3rd round? Howie Roseman, again, with this talent evaluating. But the Eagles thought, Nathan Gary, he's going to fix all the problems in the linebacking core. TJ Edwards, Duke Riley, these guys are scrubs. They're not even average guys. They're not even average NFL players. They are scrubs. If there comes a point where me sitting in my house recording this podcast feels like I can do your job better than you're doing it, and you're a professional athlete, an NFL player in the league, we have a problem. We have a problem. Nathan Gary is a scrub. I don't use that word on just anyone, but I'm sorry. Nathan Gary, he is a scrub. Let me read you this guy's deplorable, pathetic, horrendous, egregious, disgraceful stats over the first 5 games. Nathan Gary in coverage over the first 5 games. 23 targets, 23 catches for 267 yards, 4 touchdowns allowed, 154.6 passer rating. And just for perspective, a perfect passer rating in the NFL is 153.8. And the passer rating that Nathan Gary has when he's being targeted is 154.6. Most in the NFL. 4 touchdowns allowed. Most in the NFL. You give 100% completion percentage into your coverage as a linebacker. Do you realize how atrocious you have to be to give up 100% completion into your pass coverage? How god-awful you have to be? How disgraceful? And this guy continues to get snaps? I just don't get it. How on God's green earth that is 75% water is this guy getting snaps over guys like Davion Taylor and Sean Bradley? They can't get in there over this. This guy puts a new meaning to social distancing. Nathan Gary, he must be a divorce lawyer because he creates a lot of separation for himself and the nearest the nearest person that's going to receive the ball. He's always running behind them. Case in point against Chase Claypool on the touchdown that gave up ultimately ended the game. Chase Claypool's like 4 yards ahead of him, and Nathan Gary's just trailing in the dust. Nathan Gary, he doesn't belong on the NFL field. He needs to get into divorce. He needs to be a divorce lawyer. Because he can sure as hell create separation for people negatively on his part. Because this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And Jim Schwartz, he made no adjustments. That's coaching. Steelers came out empty on that last play, on their final touchdown. The Eagles see it. See that Chase Claypool, the guy who scored 3 touchdowns on you to this point, they see that Nathan Gary is aligned over this guy, so you don't call a timeout to adjust on the most important play of the game. You let the Pittsburgh Steelers snap the ball, and predictably Chase Claypool runs right by him and scores a touchdown. Jim Schwartz, what kind of coaching or lack thereof are you doing? I have no idea. But it's a disgrace, to say the least. It's a disgrace. Now on the positive side for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I like what I saw for the most part. Their defense, I wasn't impressed. Of course, the pass rush, I already know what to expect from the pass rush. They're going to get home. They got 5 sacks. They were eating. But the secondary, I'm just not enamored with what I'm seeing right now. Keith Butler continues to send these predictable blitzes, exposing the secondary so much. I just don't understand why. When you have the best pass rush in the league, what do you feel the need to blitz for 55% of the time? When you have TJ Watt, the best edge rusher in football to me, one of the best interior linemen in Cameron Hayward, an underrated defensive lineman in Stephon Tuitt, and one of the best edge rushers in the league at Bud Dupree. Why do you feel the need to blitz 55, 60% of the time when you can get home with 4 and drop 7 into coverage to help your secondary out? That's what the Pittsburgh Steelers were doing last year. Now all of a sudden it's like they're trying to change philosophies. And this is the thing I just don't trust about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I trust Mike Tomlin. I trust Ben Roethlisberger. I trust the talent that's on the roster. But I just don't trust these coordinators, man. I don't trust Keith Butler. His job got saved by Minkah Fitzpatrick. And I don't trust Randy Fichtner. The offensive and the defensive coordinator, I feel like they're the weakest spots on the Pittsburgh Steelers team. And it's a shame that I have to say the coaching is the deficiency on this team, but it is. Randy Fichtner is too predictable as a play caller, with predictable runs, and doesn't know how to use his backs effectively out of the backfield. And Keith Butler with his situational play calling is just horrendous. I'm sorry, but I can't get on board with this. I don't know how the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to expect to compete and beat the elite teams in the AFC with subpar coaching. Mike Thomas, he's got to rein these guys in. That's all I've got to say about that. Because I wasn't enamored with that defensive performance. You gave up 29 points to a team that was struggling offensively. You let Travis Fulgham, a guy from Old Dominion, catch 10 passes for over 150 yards. Catching passes all over your secondary. Mike Hilton getting scorched all over the field. I mean, goodness. By a guy who wasn't even in the league. Undrafted free agent. A guy off the practice squad. It's unacceptable. Inexcusable. But what's even more inexcusable is these New York teams. The New York Giants and the New York Jets are combined 0-10. These are some of the worst football teams I have ever seen in my life. This is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. What an atrocious sports town right now. There's no hope in New York right now. The Knicks stink. The Giants stink. And you just go up a little bit further up the way, and the New York Jets stink. There's no hope for anybody in this city. The Nets, they're okay, but they don't make this city ring like the Giants and the Jets and the Knicks. You're in the largest media capital in the world, and every week it's another headline about these teams stinking up the joint. Le'Veon Bell got released. You paid the dude 4 years, $52 million. He didn't even last a year and a half in New York. Wasn't a smart move by Le'Veon anyways. Didn't know how good he had it in Pittsburgh with a stable franchise until he got to a dysfunctional one and then had to force his way out essentially. But Adam Gase was never on board with having Le'Veon Bell anyways. But Adam Gase, I just don't know what to say. Why is this guy still a head coach? The Jets are one of the worst franchises in the league. Their owner's trying to do whatever he's trying to do in the UK. The GM, he just got into this abomination of a franchise, didn't know what he was getting into. Now he's got this whole mess he has to clean up. Sam Darnold has regrets, but we don't even really know how good or bad Sam Darnold is because Adam Gase is such an atrocious head coach. Jamal Adams wanted out of here, your best player. Then your second best player, Le'Veon Bell, wanted out of here. CJ Mosley decided to sit out the season, probably had a premonition about what was going to happen this season and knew he just should sit his behind down and not engage in this foolishness that's going on in the New York market right now with this abomination of a franchise, the New York Jets. You just don't know what to hope for. The thing that I don't understand is how for the life of me could the New York Jets in the same division as the Miami Dolphins, where Adam Gase came from, think, Adam Gase, that guy looks good down there in Miami when they didn't make the playoffs at all. No, they made it 1 year. Let me give him his respect. Made it 1 year. But other than that, Miami been mired in mediocrity. But, that guy Adam Gase down there, yeah, he looked good. He looks good. Let me go ahead and bring him on board to the New York Jets. Well, he did virtually nothing in Miami. How could you do that? You're in the same division as this guy, and this guy got fired, and then not 1, 2, 3 weeks later, you hire him as the head coach, and you're in the same division. What did you see that was so promising about Adam Gase? I don't get it. I don't get it. And then the Giants. Daniel Jones, he's just like a slot machine. You pull his arm, he fumbles, turning the ball over left and right. Saquon Barkley, the face of the franchise, is out for the year. Joe Judge is trying to establish a culture, and these dudes, they just commit mistake after mistake after mistake. The defense, they're just not nearly good enough. There's nothing exciting to watch about the New York teams. They're all just a joke. Gang Green, they're just getting beat up left and right. Big Blue, more like Small Blue, more like Blue's Clues. Where are you? We don't know where the Giants are. What a joke. It's just all over the place with these guys, man. It's just all over the place. Getting into more bad news. The Falcons finally fired their head coach and the GM. Thank goodness, because I just felt bad for Atlanta Falcons fans. I mean, if you want to see what it is like to be miserable, just be an Atlanta Falcons fan, because they just had their heart broken too many times. Too many times. Blown lead after lead, losing to subpar teams. Dan Quinn's supposed to be a defensive mind, and your defense is atrocious, getting scorched week after week. You just can't make this stuff up. Dan Quinn, he had to go. And the GM had to go too. Hopefully the Falcons hire a defensive mind, or hire an offensive mind. Hopefully they hire a good coach. But we'll see. But Arthur Blank, he had to do that. He had to get rid of them because it was just no good. It was just no good. Falcons didn't look good on any front. They're wasting away Matt Ryan's career. They're wasting away one of the greatest receivers ever in Julio Jones. It's just no good. It's over for them. It's over. They got a lot to rebuild. Looking at the Chiefs-Raiders game, Chiefs lost 40-32. Just very, very disappointed in the effort put forth by the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, just not nearly good enough. 22 of 43. That's not going to get it done. That's just barely above 50% of your passes completed. That's just not what I expect from the Ferrari at all. I was very disappointed. But this Chiefs secondary, man, they're just getting roasted all over the field. This guy, Rashad Fenton, whatever his name is, he was getting scorched all over the field by Henry Ruggs. And then you got Bashad Breeland, his first game back. He made some plays, but he was getting scorched as well. It was just a collective effort. And then the rushing defense, these guys were getting run all over by Josh Jacobs. Run all over. Chiefs got a lot to figure out on defense. They got a lot to figure out on defense because that was an unacceptable defensive performance. That just wasn't nearly good enough, not nearly what I was expecting. 40 points put up on you. It's unacceptable. It's just not good enough. Josh Jacobs and this kid Booker controlled the tempo of the game as far as running the ball. John Gruden, he just called a masterful game as far as I'm concerned. He deserves a lot of props. Derek Carr throwing for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. Deserves a lot of props as well. And the Raiders, they have playmakers. Henry Ruggs, Nelson Aguilar. Waller's one of the best tight ends in the league. Renfro can do some things. Jalen Richard can do some things. So, Raiders, they're no joke. I still expect them to be around 7-9, 8-8, 9-7. But they're a grinded out team. They can get after you as far as running the ball and then giving you a complimentary passing game over the top with Henry Ruggs and these boys. So, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, they got to be on the lookout for the Raiders. But Chiefs got. That's all I can say. The Chiefs got. It was not a good look for their defense, and it wasn't a good game for Patrick Mahomes. I was very, very disappointed in the effort he put on display. moving right along. Colts, Browns. This game just boils down to one simple common denominator. Phillip Rivers. How can you trust or believe in this guy? The Colts have the perfect roster. Almost. But the quarterback is the thing that is going to hold them back because they do not have one under center. This is why I said on the last episode that the Colts, they need to be looking at trying to get Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Trevor Lawrence. Because they need a difference maker at quarterback to open up this passing game. Because Phillip Rivers, he just can't get it done. He's going to give the ball away to the other team, predictably. And teams are just going to load up and try to stop the run. I just don't know what you do if you're Indianapolis. This guy, he's going to throw away a lot of games for you because he's going to throw interceptions. I mean, what do you do? I don't know what you do. I just know the Indianapolis Colts, they have a good future. But currently right now, Phillip Rivers for 1 year, $25 million. Never bought into it. Never was sold on it. Don't know why I picked them to go to the playoffs. Because Phillip Rivers, he hasn't consistently shown he can get to the playoffs. I just thought with this roster, they'd be able to run the football better, but 18 attempts for 68 yards isn't nearly enough. Jonathan Taylor, 12 carries only? Frank Reich, you need to get this guy the ball more. You need to get him the ball in the running game and the passing game as far as I'm concerned. He's the lead back, and he's got the talent to be elite. Jonathan Taylor's got to be the feature player on this offense as far as I'm concerned. It should be Jonathan Taylor and Phillip Rivers throwing the ball very, 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 very minimally. I'm talking when I was talking about last week when he was averaging throwing about 21 to 23 passes a game. 33 is too much for him because that leaves just too much margin for error for him to throw interceptions. And you don't want that. But let's also give some credit to the Cleveland Browns. They found their recipe for success. Hand the ball off, run the ball, and let Baker Mayfield essentially be a game manager and get the ball to these receivers in timely situations. Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Njoku, Austin Hooper, and these boys. But the two key additions that have unlocked this Browns offense, the two key additions, and they're both made in the offseason. Jack Conklin, signed in free agency. Jedrick Wills, drafted from Alabama. Those were the two key additions because the Browns have a pretty stout interior line, but the tackles is what was getting them last year. Why Baker Mayfield was seeing so much pressure off the edge. But those two have completely unlocked this offense, and Kevin Stefanski has found the formula that works for the Browns as far as winning. Now, I don't know if that's going to work on Sunday, this coming Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they have one of the best rushing defenses in the league, only giving about like 60, 70 yards a game. But that's the Browns' formula for success as far as the whole season. Get the ball to Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham in spurts and run the ball with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb inevitably when he comes back. That's their formula for success. And then run play action and boots and get Baker Mayfield out of the pocket, keep him on the run. That's their formula. But I want to circle back. I want to circle back to the NFC East, or the NFC least as some like to call it. Because I want to tell you why the Cowboys are going to win this division. One simple reason. They have the best offense in this division. And none of the other teams have anything that they're elite at. Eagles aren't an elite offense, and they're definitely not an elite defense. The Washington football team, they don't even have a quarterback right now. And they don't do anything elite other than rush the passer, which, you know, now that we're deeper in the season, teams have film on them. You can negate that, obviously. So they're not going to be having no 8-sack performances like they did the first game against the Philadelphia Eagles throughout the rest of the division. Teams are going to scheme ways to, get quick passes, screens, bootlegs, play action to avoid that defensive line. So what Washington has that's elite, you're going to be able to avoid it to some degree. So that's going to lessen that. And then the Giants, they're just a terrible football team. Obviously, that's why they're 0-5. But the Dallas Cowboys, while they have one of the worst defenses in the league, they have an explosive offense, and that's going to keep them in every game, even with Andy Dalton behind center. Andy Dalton is still a capable quarterback who can make all the throws. He may not be elite, but he's quality enough to keep you in games and keep you afloat in the division. All the Cowboys need to do is beat the Eagles because they're going to sweep the Washington football team, and the lowly New York Giants. They just got to beat Philadelphia. That's all they have to do. Now, while there's optimism as far as them winning the division, I don't want you Cowboys fans to get your hopes up as far as Super Bowl, because that's not happening. Your defense, it's not good. And I'm tired of getting messages from you Cowboys fans. Jordan Green, you who appeared on the AC podcast, you specifically, I'm speaking to you. There is no reason for optimism when it comes to this Dallas Cowboys defense. There's none. Your defense stinks. 1 week it's giving up 3 games worth of rushing yards to the Cleveland Browns. The games prior, they're giving up rainbows over their head to the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. Then the next game, they're giving up 34 points to a team that was averaging 11.8 coming into the game. The Giants were the worst offense in the league. And you gave up 34 to them? Daniel Jones? And they had 2 touchdowns called, the questionable touchdowns taken off the board by the refs? So they could have had easily 40? No. There's no reason for hope. Your defense stinks. And what am I supposed to think? Oh, you say, oh, well, maybe they'll improve. Oh, sure. They'll get fat against sorry teams like the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles who don't have an offense. But when they play meaningful games like the Vikings, like the Cardinals, like the Ravens, like the Steelers, potentially the 49ers, they'll probably give up a lot of points in those games. And I don't see how the Dallas Cowboys, when they play elite quarterbacks, a.k.a. Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson in the playoffs, they're going to be able to stop those teams. How are they going to be able to stop them? You can't expect Andy Dalton to just score points all the time. Dak's a better player than Andy Dalton. Make no mistake about it. So Dallas Cowboys, the way they're going to have to protect this defense is hand the ball to Zeke, which they're in prime position to do now because Dak's not in. So they're going to have to give the ball to Zeke 25, 30 times a game. Now, I don't know if the coaching staff is smart enough to do that, but we'll see. But I also want to get into my previous statement about the Philadelphia Eagles, why I want them to lose. I just want to highlight why. Because you may be wondering, why would you want your team to lose? Because the Philadelphia Eagles aren't a good team. Because the worst place you can be, to me at least, as an NFL fan, is when your team is hovering around 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, and you sit there and think you're only one piece away, and you're really not. See, there's no problem with your team stinks because you know your team stinks. So your team's 4-12, 3-13, 5-11 type thing. You just know your team stinks. But when your team is hovering around mediocrity for so long, that's really the worst thing that's really the worst place to be as a fan. And that's where the Eagles are hovering around. They're 9-7, 8-8, 7-9 football team to me. And that's what their talent says. The Eagles roster is one of the worst rosters in the league. And it's the second most expensive roster in 2021. Eagles have no young talent on this team other than Miles Sanders and Jalen Reagor, who we don't even know what he looks like right now because he's hurt. Other than that, we don't know what the future outlook of this team is. Fletcher Cox, you're not getting enough money. You're not getting enough bang out of your buck for the money you're paying him. This is the highest paid defensive line in the league, and the best players on it are above 30. Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Brandon Graham are all over the age of 30 and past their primes. Derek Barnett, he's a first-round pick, but he hasn't been productive enough for you to even feel confident about him, calling him a future piece of this team and this defense. The linebackers, you already heard me talk about them. They're scrubs. And then the secondary, your best corner is over the age of 30. You don't have any young corners. Avonte Maddox, he's not good. Your 2 young corners that you drafted in the 2017 draft, Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones, they got cut. And then your safety position, you're playing Marcus Epps and you're playing Jalen Mills, who's not good at safety either. He was a corner last year. You transferred him to safety, and he's not good at that either. And then Rodney McLeod, he's above the age of 30. So you have no young talent on this defense at all that you can rely upon. I like Kayvon Wallace, but he's not playing that much. I don't even know. I can't even get an overview or a grasp of what he can do. I think he can be a good safety, but I don't know. He's playing behind Jalen Mills and Marcus Epps and Roddy McLeod. Like, give me a break. Jim Schwartz. in the Philadelphia Eagles. Then you look at the offense, all the best linemen are over 30. The receivers that the Eagles are relying upon, Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, they're both over 30. And then when you look at the receivers after that, Jalen Reagor, you don't even know what he looks like right now because he's hurt. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, he is a bust. He's a scrub as well. He's no good either. And then you're looking at like guys 5th and 6th rounders like Quez Watkins and John Hightower. You're just looking at these guys. It's just, where's the young talent on this team at? The GM. He's just got to be fired. And that's ultimately what this comes down to. I think the only way that the GM will get fired is if the Eagles can continue to lose, which is what I want them and expect them to do. I expect them to get blown out by the Baltimore Ravens this coming weekend. And then when you look at the rest of their schedule, they're going to beat the Giants most likely, but who knows? The Eagles might find a way to lose those games. Then they play a tough slate of the Browns, the Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints, and the Cardinals, and the Cowboys in like a 6-game stretch. I could see all 6 of those games being L's. And at what point do you start selling the future, the old people on this team? At what point are you sellers at the trade deadline? At what point do you sell on Fletcher Cox and Malik Jackson and Brandon Graham and Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz? At what point do you sell on those guys and Rodney McLeod as well? You keep Darius Slay because he's the only bright spot on the defense as far as I'm concerned. He's the only elite player on the defense that actually plays up to their ability and what their stat and their contract. Because Darius Slay, he's been everything the Eagles have hoped for. He's shutting down everybody. He's a top 5 corner still. But when you're just looking at the future outlook, I just need the Eagles to be sellers so they can get some young talent on this team. Get a receiver in this draft like Jamar Chase or Jalen Waddle. Rondale Moore, get some talent on this team. I think the offensive line is actually in good shape as far as the future is concerned, because I've seen some promising things out of Jordan Mailata. I'll give him his respect. Jack Driscoll, he's more of a guard than a tackle, but I think he looks good. Lane Johnson, you obviously got to keep him. Jason Kelsey's probably going to retire, so not really worried about that too much. We'll have a center to replace him. But as far as the skill position players and the ammunition on defense, I'm very, very concerned about the future. And so I think the Eagles need to be stocking up on picks because this is a deep drafted linebacker, for corner, for wide receiver again. Like this is a draft where they if they can bottom out and get some and start selling a bunch of these players that I just named at the trade deadline and get picks, then I think they can reload in this draft, get a new GM, reload in this draft, and think about competing for 2022. I think that's the best case scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles. Because right now they just don't have the talent to compete for anything. They're just going to hover around an average team and have all these fans thinking that we can compete for something. For what? What are we going to compete for once we get into the playoffs? Compete and then get smashed by the Packers or the Saints or the Rams or the Seahawks? We're going to continue the same cycle like we have the last 3 years, making the playoffs and getting beat in the first round or losing in the second round, having no meaning to our season, have no hope of contending for an actual Super Bowl? No. We got to rebuild now before it's too late. And that starts with getting rid of the GM. So I need the Eagles to keep losing. That's why I want us to lose, for those of you who didn't understand. But before we get out of here, I want to talk about the Bucs game. Bucs versus the Bears, obviously. Very, very disappointed in the Bucs. Very disappointed. Tom Brady, he was okay. Nothing to write home about, obviously. Obviously, Chris Godwin wasn't there. Rob Gronkowski, he caught a couple balls. O.J. Howard's out for the season. But I just don't understand how the Bucs lost this game. Tom Brady just had a mental lapse, didn't know it was fourth down. He thought it was third down. You got Nick Foles just orchestrating the offense, scoring on the Bucks consistently. A lot of penalties that shouldn't have been called on the Bucks that were called, obviously. But to me, the Bucks are the better team on paper, on both sides of the ball. To me, you can make an argument the Bears have a better defense, but I don't know. I don't think it's that wide of a margin, honestly. But ultimately, it came down to Tom Brady for me, and I was just disappointed in his performance. Obviously, the running game's got to be more effective. And overall, the Bucs defense, they just can't they just can't lose to Nick Foles. You can't allow Nick Foles to do what he did to you. It was just unacceptable to me. So, but I expect the Bucs to recover. And they better recover because they're the only hope as far as Florida teams are concerned, or professional Florida teams are concerned. The Jaguars, they stink. And the Dolphins, they're rebuilding. They're still rebuilding. There's going to be no excitement in Miami until Tua starts to play because Ryan Fitzpatrick, we already know what he is. We need him to have a couple more bad games before we can actually see Tua, but needless to say, Ryan Fitzpatrick obviously is just a stopgap. So there's that. But overall, that's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you for listening. As I say, as always, like, subscribe, share. And if you have any fan questions, you already know, just hit my phone or leave a comment under the episode and you already know I'll answer it. As always, you guys are welcome to come on and chop it up with me on the show as well. So if any of you are feeling bold enough, you can do that and call in. But as always, I appreciate you guys for listening. One love. I'm out. This is AC.